They told me my duty was to stay, to be the one who never leaves. But when a chance to live my dream finally came, I had to choose between their future and my own. You'll stay close. You'll take care of us when we're older. That line was sewn into me before I even knew what it meant. My mom would say it with a pat on the head, like she was handing me a prize. My dad would say it like a command, quiet but firm, usually after dinner when we were washing dishes together. Every time they said it, I nodded. What else was I supposed to do? I was just a kid trying to be good. They made it sound like love. Like being obedient was a kind of loyalty. Like putting them first was what family meant. When I stayed home on weekends instead of going to the movies with friends, I got praised. When I offered to mow the lawn without being asked, they called me responsible. If I ever talked about doing something big, moving away, chasing something that lit me up, my mom would gently remind me, home is where you're needed most, honey. And needing me? That was their whole plan. We were not poor, but we lived tight. Small town in Indiana, the kind of place with one grocery store, a barber shop that closed on Mondays, and a post office that also sold fishing bait. My folks, Walter and Jean, were born there and never left. My dad worked at the feed mill. My mom ran a little gift shop that doubled as a gossip hub. Everybody knew everybody, and everyone knew me as the good son. I was the youngest of three. My brother Dennis moved to Chicago straight after high school. My sister Lauren got married young and settled in Tennessee with her husband and 4 kids. Neither of them came home for holidays much. That left me, quiet, dependable, close by. I convinced myself I liked it. That being the one who stayed made me strong. That it meant something. But even when I was young, there was this voice inside me, low and steady, that whispered, "This isn't all there is." I ignored it for years, until the day that voice got louder. Louder than guilt, louder than fear, louder than family. And that was the day everything changed. It happened on a Tuesday. Funny how ordinary the day was. I had just finished my shift at the garage, same place I had worked since high school. Oil changes, tire rotations, the occasional brake job if things got exciting. I was wiping down my hands when my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a name I had not seen in years. Kyle Merritt. We went to school together. He was one of those guys who could fix anything, but never stuck around long enough to finish a single project. I had not talked to him since he left for the West Coast a decade ago. I figured he was probably flipping houses or backpacking through deserts with a camera by now. But that message? It was short. Just said, "Call me. I've got something for you." I almost didn't. I stood there in the back of the shop for a good 10 minutes, staring at the screen. I could already hear my mom's voice in my head. "You've got everything you need here, son. No reason to go chasing something that might not last." But I called him anyway. He answered like no time had passed. Same laugh. Same energy. He said he had started a custom motorcycle shop down in Austin. Said he needed someone who could work with their hands, but also run the floor. Someone who showed up every day. Someone he could trust. "It's yours if you want it," he said. "Starting pays double what you're making now. I know you never left, but maybe it's time?" It felt like someone had cracked a window in a room I did not even realize was suffocating me. But right after I hung up, the panic set in. My stomach twisted itself in knots. I walked home in a daze, gravel crunching under my boots, and every step felt heavier than the last. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table, same as always. Dad reading the paper. Mom flipping through a coupon book. The TV murmuring in the background. And just like that, I was 10 years old again. Afraid to speak up. Afraid to want something more. I did not say a word that night. I barely slept. The next morning, I packed a small bag. Nothing dramatic, just the essentials. A couple shirts, a tool set, my boots, and an old picture of me and Kyle from sophomore year. I left the house before dawn, before they woke up, before I could change my mind. I told myself I would explain everything later, that they would understand once they saw me make something of myself. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. Because even as the bus pulled away from that little town, I could still hear my mother's voice in my head. "You're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to stay." And I had just broken the only rule that ever mattered in our family. Austin hit me like a wave I did not know I had been drowning under. The heat, the noise, the colors, the sheer size of it all, it was overwhelming. But there was something else too. Something quiet, just beneath the surface. It felt like possibility. Kyle picked me up from the bus station in a beat-up Chevy with a busted AC and music blasting like it was still 2006. He gave me a one-armed hug, tossed my bag in the back, and said, "Hope you don't mind sleeping on the shop couch for a few days. Rent's murder until we find you a spot." I did not mind. That first night, I slept under a busted ceiling fan, on an old leather couch that smelled like motor oil and cigar smoke. And for the first time in years, I woke up not knowing what anyone expected from me. It was terrifying and kind of beautiful. The days were long, 10, sometimes 12 hours on my feet. But I liked the work. Custom builds, real craftsmanship. I learned things I had never touched back home. Carl trusted me to take the lead on projects. He let me make decisions, mess up, fix them, and try again. At night, I walked through neighborhoods I could not afford, past food trucks and music venues and rooftop bars. I did not go in. Not at first. I just watched. People laughing, living, choosing their lives instead of being handed one. There were nights I would sit alone on the shop's back steps, staring up at the Texas sky, and wonder if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I missed my mom's sweet tea, my dad's stories about the mill, even the damn porch swing that always creaked no matter how much WD-40 I used. But then I would remember the way my mother said, "You'll take care of us," like it was already written in stone. And I would breathe deep, remind myself I was not trapped anymore. 2 months in, Carl made me manager. 3 months in, I moved into a studio apartment over a bakery. It smelled like cinnamon rolls every morning. The rent nearly killed me, but I had a place that was mine. I started keeping a notebook, just small things. Things I liked. Things I had never tried. Foods. Places. Thoughts. My handwriting was messy, but it felt like proof I existed. One night, I wrote down, "You are allowed to want more." And for the first time in my life, I believed it. But just as I started to feel like I belonged in my own skin, something showed up in my inbox that pulled me right back into the past. It was a Sunday morning when I saw it. I was sipping coffee on the fire escape, the sun cutting across the street like gold through dust, when my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months, Mom. For a second, I thought maybe it was some kind of pocket dial. But then I saw the preview of the message. "We need to talk." 2 hours went by before I worked up the nerve to open it. She wrote that my dad had slipped at work, hurt his back, and was on leave. She said things at home were harder now. The message ended with a line that made my stomach twist. "You always said family comes first. Maybe it's time you remembered that." That was all it took. Every piece of guilt I had been trying to bury came rushing back. I stared at that screen like it was a mirror showing me the person I had tried so hard to stop being. I didn't answer right away. I spent that whole day walking aimlessly through Austin, passing murals, food trucks, strangers laughing over beers. The whole world seemed alive, and yet I felt like a ghost drifting through it. By nightfall, I sat on the shop floor with the lights off, replaying every version of the conversation I could imagine. If I went back, I knew what would happen. They would thank me, then slowly pull me into their orbit again. The caretaking, the guilt, the smallness. But if I stayed away, what kind of son did that make me? Carl found me sitting there, still staring at my phone like it held the answer to everything. He didn't say much, just sat beside me on the concrete. After a long silence, he said, "You can love them without losing yourself again." I didn't respond. I just nodded. But that night, those words dug deep and stayed. Over the next week, I tried to throw myself into work. It didn't help. I kept thinking about Dad limping through the house, about Mom trying to keep up the shop. I imagined the looks from neighbors, the whispers. He ran off. He left them to fend for themselves. By Friday, I had half-packed a bag again. Old instincts die hard. But then I got another message. This time from Lauren, my sister. The one who barely talked to me before I left. It said, "Do not come back. You finally made it out. Don't let them drag you down like they did me." I read it twice. 3 times. I didn't even know what she meant. Drag you down? She'd always been their favorite daughter. And then she added one last line that made my chest go cold. "There's more going on than Mom told you." I called Lauren that night. She picked up on the second ring, like she had been waiting. There was no small talk, just a long breath. Then her voice, quiet, like she was afraid someone might hear her. "You know how they always said Dennis left for college and never looked back?" she asked. I said, "Yeah, that was the story. He went to Chicago and never came home. Couldn't handle small-town life." She laughed, but it was bitter. "That's not what happened. He begged them to let him go." Begged. They told him no. Said he was supposed to stay close. Sound familiar? My mouth went dry. She kept going, the words picking up like floodwater breaking through a dam. He got into this art program. Full ride. Out of state. They told him if he left, he was selfish. Said Dad's heart wasn't good, and Mom couldn't handle things alone. He believed them. He stayed an extra year. You know what they did when he gave up the scholarship? I didn't answer. I could barely breathe. They said, "Thank you for doing the right thing," and then handed him a job at the mill like it was some kind of prize. He hated it. He left anyway, in the middle of the night. Never spoke to them again. Changed his number. I sat there, stunned. They tried to do it to me too, she said. When I got engaged, Mom cried. Said I was abandoning the family, like it was betrayal just to want something else. She even told Jared's mom I'd probably come back home after the wedding, that it wouldn't last. My throat tightened. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I thought maybe you were different. Maybe they'd changed. But when I saw how they leaned on you after I left, her voice trailed off. That old lie unraveled fast. All my life, I had thought I was the chosen one. The good one. The son who stayed behind out of love. But I was just next in line. Another warm body to fill the space others had escaped from. I thought back to every time they said, "We're so lucky you're here." Every time they called me reliable, loyal, selfless. None of it had been love. It was all about control. I thanked Lauren, barely able to form the words. She paused before hanging up. You've got your life now, Jack. Keep it. Do not let them twist it into theirs. But it was already too late. Because Mom had sent another message while we talked. Just 3 words. We need money. I did not answer her message right away. I just stared at those 3 words. We need money. Not how are you. Not we miss you. Just need. I set my phone down and paced my apartment, every inch of the space suddenly feeling too small. I had worked hard for that space. Paid for every scratch on that floor, every damn screw in the shelf I built with my own hands. And now, just like that, they wanted a piece of it. The next message came an hour later. Longer this time. Said Dad's injury meant lost wages, bills piling up, and the shop had a slow season. She said she had already talked to the others, which I knew was a lie. Lauren would never agree. Dennis was probably still off the grid. I was the only one who still answered her calls. Then came the guilt. You always said you'd look after us. You promised. And that part? That got me. Because I had said it. I said it 100 times, growing up. Said it when I was too young to know what it really meant. I thought love meant saying yes. I thought love meant staying small so someone else could stay comfortable. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall, until the sun went down and the room filled with shadows. Then I opened my laptop, checked my bank account, and looked at the number sitting there, every cent earned by my hands. And I thought about sending it. I thought about giving in. Again. But something stopped me. Not anger. Not pride. Just exhaustion. I picked up the phone and called her. When she answered, I heard it immediately. That rehearsed concern in her voice, like she was already halfway through a script. She said they were barely scraping by. Said she did not want to ask, but, "You're doing so well, honey, and we're struggling here." I asked her what exactly the money was for. She hesitated, then said the furnace needed replacing. Dad's truck needed work. The shop was behind on rent. But I knew that town. I knew that shop. I knew damn well it was still running on the same hours, same inventory, same everything since I left. And Dad, he was a stubborn man, but he would rather limp to work than admit he needed help. Unless someone else was pushing him. You sure it's just the furnace? I asked. Silence. Then she said something I'll never forget. Well, if you hadn't left. That was it. Not a threat. Not a plea. Just that sentence. That quiet accusation buried in 1,000 expectations. If you hadn't left. Like everything that followed. Every hardship, every problem, was somehow my fault because I dared to live a life that did not orbit theirs. I hung up without saying goodbye. An hour later, Kyle found me still sitting on the shop floor again, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. He asked if I was okay. I said, they only love me when I'm useful. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. 3 weeks passed before I bought the ticket. I told myself it was just a visit. Just to see how bad things were. Just to look them in the eye. I even convinced myself maybe, just maybe, this would be the trip that changed things. That we could start over. That I could come back not as the boy who stayed, but as the man who left and still cared. The bus ride was long and silent. I watched the trees blur past until the green turned familiar, then too familiar. Then came the curve by the grain silo. the intersection where the gas station used to be. And finally, our street, the one with the mailbox I fixed when I was 13, still leaning like no one had touched it since. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had just grown bigger. I stepped up onto the porch, boots hitting the wood in steady thuds. I knocked. My mom opened the door with a look I had not seen since I was in trouble for skipping school. Not relief. Not joy. Just surprise, and maybe a little annoyance. "Oh," she said, like I was a package that showed up late. "You came." I stepped inside. It smelled the same, like old paper, fried food, and furniture that had not moved in 30 years. Dad was in the recliner, remote in hand, barely looked up. Just gave me a grunt and a nod like I was a neighbor dropping by for 5 minutes. Not the son they had not seen in over a year. No hug. No welcome home. We sat in silence for a while. They asked how work was. I said good. I asked about the shop. Mom said business was slow, but she was managing. I asked about Dad's back. She said he was getting by. Then came the remarks. The ones dipped in sugar but meant to sting. "Looks like city life's treated you well," Mom said, glancing at my clothes. Dad added, "Bet you forgot what real work looks like." And just like that, I was 12 again, being scolded for tracking mud in the house or leaving the mower gas empty. They made no mention of the messages, the money, the guilt they had poured on me for months. It was like none of it had happened. That night at dinner, I offered to pay for the furnace. I figured maybe it was the right thing to do. A peace offering. A small act of love. Mom didn't say thank you. She just said, "Well, I suppose that's the least you can do." I did not sleep that night. The house creaked in all the old ways. I lay in my childhood bed, staring at the same ceiling I used to count spiders on, and realized something that chilled me more than the wind sneaking in through the cracks. They did not miss me. They missed what I gave them. And maybe they always had. The next morning, I made coffee in the same chipped mug I used in high school. My mom walked in, already dressed like she was heading to church, even though it was Tuesday. She looked at the table, then at me. "You didn't make enough for your father?" she asked, like I had just insulted the flag. I stayed calm. Told her he was still asleep when I started it. That I would make more. She muttered something under her breath. I caught the word inconsiderate. I let it go. We sat in silence. The kitchen felt colder than usual. She flipped through her planner, clicking her pen against the table every few seconds. Then she asked the question I had been dreading. "So, when are you moving back for good?" I looked at her, unsure if she was joking. She wasn't. I told her I wasn't. I told her I had a job, a life, friends, a future in Austin. That this was just a visit. She looked up from her planner, face blank. Then she sighed, loud and heavy, like I had just told her someone died. "After all we gave you," she said. I could feel it rising in me. The heat. The pressure. Every dinner I skipped to help with chores. Every holiday I spent fixing things around the house while Dennis and Lauren lived their lives. Every quiet sacrifice they never asked for out loud, but always expected. And now? Now I was the one letting them down. I stood up, pushed my chair in slowly. "I'm not your backup plan," I said. My voice was quiet. Too calm. She blinked. "Excuse me." I stepped closer. Not angry. Just done. "You didn't raise me to be independent. You raised me to be available. That's not the same thing." Her mouth opened like she had a comeback ready, but nothing came out. Then Dad walked in, scratching his head, still half asleep. "What's all this now?" he asked. I turned to him. "I'm leaving. This afternoon." He frowned. "Already? You just got here." "You didn't really want me here," I said. "You wanted the version of me that stayed small. That never left." Silence. "You're being dramatic," Mom said. Her voice was sharp now. "Cold." "No," I said, grabbing my bag. "For the first time, I'm not." I walked to the door. My dad didn't stop me. My mom didn't call after me. Not even a goodbye. Just the sound of her flipping that planner again, like nothing worth remembering had happened at all. The bus ride back felt longer. Not in miles. In weight. I stared out the window, the sky fading from gray to gold, thinking about everything I had said and everything I hadn't. My whole life I had believed that love meant giving. That being the good son meant staying close, staying small, staying silent. That it was noble to put your dreams on hold for the people who raised you. But that version of love? It had strings on every limb. Back in Austin, Kyle met me at the station. No big welcome. Just a clap on the shoulder and the words, "You all right?" I told him, getting there. And that was the truth. The shop felt different after I returned. Not because anything had changed, but because I had. I stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. I stopped second-guessing my choices. I stopped apologizing for wanting something more than a porch swing and a life built on sacrifice. I had expected that leaving home would hurt. What I had not expected was that going back would hurt worse. That same week, a letter came in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting like the back of my own hand. It was from my dad. Just a single page. He wrote, "You've always been the one who stayed. I guess I did not realize you had somewhere else to go." No apology. No ownership. Just a quiet admission that he never thought I would leave. And at the bottom, scribbled like an afterthought, "We still don't understand why you left." That one line stayed with me. They didn't understand. They probably never would. I folded the letter, tucked it in the back of my notebook, the same one I started my first night in Austin. Right beside the line I wrote months ago, "You are allowed to want more." Because I am. And maybe the hardest thing I ever had to learn was this. Sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. I used to think leaving made me selfish. That chasing a different life meant abandoning the people who gave me mine. But now, years later, I see it clearer. It was not selfish to leave. It was survival. I built something here. Not perfect, not flashy, but mine. I wake up in a space I paid for. I work with my hands. I solve real problems. I have friends who see me, not as a fallback, not as a placeholder, but as a person. I laugh more now. I sleep deeper. I breathe without guilt sitting on my chest like a paperweight. But even with all that, some nights I still find myself staring at that folded letter in the drawer. I read it again, searching for something that is not there. Acknowledgement, maybe. Understanding. A crack in the armor. It never comes. And I have learned to live with that. I stopped expecting closure from people who never gave me space to open up in the first place. Mom still sends the occasional birthday card. No return address. Just a line like, "Hope you're doing all right." I never know what to write back. So I don't. Lauren calls sometimes. She's doing okay. Says Dennis is living off the grid in Washington. Says she's proud of me, even if they'll never say it. That's the thing no one prepares you for. You can break the cycle. You can climb out. You can grow past every limitation they placed on you. But the wounds still follow. You stop bleeding, but the scars stay. And sometimes, when the wind's quiet and the shop's closed and the sky's the same color as back home, I feel it again, the ache, the loss. Not of a place, not of a job, of people. Because I love them. I really did. Still do, in some way. But I finally learned something they never taught me. Love is not sacrifice without end. Love is not giving until you vanish. Love is not staying small so someone else can feel big. Sometimes, love is walking away. Sometimes, love is choosing yourself. And the hardest part? Sometimes, the people you love the most will call that betrayal.